We have the following 3CX applications that are available: the web client, the progressive web app, which is the browser extension. We have the mobile app, which we can have on Android and iOS, and we have the Windows soft phone. And if you've seen the latest improvement on the Windows soft phone, you will see that this most likely becomes the go-to again for many, many, many users in the future in order to use 3CX. I use the Windows soft client since years. I have not swapped over to the web client. I have not swapped over to the desktop app. I have always used the Windows soft client, and I have never had any issue with it. I didn't regret staying with the Windows soft client, and that they are more or less forced to revamp that soft client shows you how many people worldwide are actually still using that soft client. The 3CX apps features, they give you presence information of your team. They allow you to have call forwarding enabled, voicemail and greetings, talk and meet URLs, control of IP phones, video calls, and messaging. They offer complete telephony functionality, conference scheduling, notifications. The web client and progressive app, they offer desktop notification. The mobile phone offers push notification, soft phone, native answer dialog box. It literally also looks like a fly-in window, and then literally you will be able to just answer on there as well. The welcome email sent automatically upon creation of the extension is triggered by the admin or user, includes the web client URL and the link to set or reset the password. I totally understand that a lot of end users have an issue with reading that email. It is a little bit, complicated. As of now, I am not sure if that will come, Darren. The question is there still integration with Windows soft client and Outlook for dialing contacts, etc.? I am not sure if that all will be included. What I know, it is still not fully built out. What I know is that the hotkeys are coming back, for example, and we will have the chat coming back into the Windows soft client. So at the moment when you want to have chat, you are redirected into the web client. This is going to be removed, and you have the chat functionality in the Windows app. You also will have the call overview. So like the manager window and all that stuff, that is already around again. And I'm pretty sure that the Outlook integration will come back again, because again, the demand to have the soft client set up, the new soft client set up like the old one was, is huge. Yeah, so I am pretty sure they have to integrate or add everything like the old one was. Again, the welcome email here includes all the necessary information. Again, for some end user, it might be a little bit too complicated, but there, again, you are able, when you have the skills to edit XML, you can change how the welcome email looks like. You can edit that in the relevant section, and your customers then just have a very, very basic email going out with also just what is necessary in that email. So you can adjust that. We do already a web client demo on the free and SMB. In the end, the web client looks everywhere the same in that regard. So let me see, go here. So that's now the web client. That's not the I mean, in the end, the web client is the management console nowadays. So from that perspective, so you have the opportunity there to allow the notifications. We have here the so fortunately I did that on my German language backend. So you see the devices that are speakers and microphones are in German. But yeah, that generally shouldn't be an issue. You see, I did allow the devices to be used. We don't have that notification at the top left anymore. The top left notification there is literally the a progressive web app. We have the chats, of course, nothing happened there yet on that device because it's just I set that up without any information. We have the wallboard, we can set reminders, we have the contacts, we have the voicemail, and then again we have the settings where we can choose whatever kind of system that we want. We have the call forwarding where we also can set status messages, and then we also can add a dedicated schedule for that certain extension. It's literally all the same what we had in the web client on version 18 already. So from that kind of thing, that's absolutely no issue with the setup. And then we have the supported headsets. Yelling at the moment is not supported. They will come. That is about to be released soon. Then you can say show unregistered extensions. So you see everyone, show extensions by numbers. You have CRM integration, and again, you have the BLF keys in that regard. If you are system owner, you can also add users. You can then there set them up also with the call forwarding, the schedule. You can add IP phones. IP phones are coming later on then. I think they are tomorrow on the run, or are they still today? I think it's, yeah, it's today. It's then once we left the apps, we then see the IP phones. You can add trunks. Trunks will be tomorrow first chapter to see how we add trunks then on the system. It's not much different in that regard from that perspective. It's just with the SMB and free, it's very, very limited on what you have on trunks. You have SBCs that you can add. You can add DECT devices there, FXS gateways. So from that perspective, you can do a lot with that. That's SMB now, yeah. So you can do very much with SMB. You see, it's actually the free. It's actually not even the SMB, it's the free. So you can add, you see, DECT phones, you can add gateways there. So yeah, it's literally very, very open in that regard, yeah. You also have the opportunity on two-factor authentication and so on. So that was the web client demo. QR code provisioning is used for the 3.6 mobile app. it can be found inside the web client, the progressive web app, and inside the admin console. Literally very simple. You install the mobile app via the Google App Store or the iPhone App Store, and then all you do is literally you accept that the camera can be used, and then you can scan the QR code. Done. The 3CX mobile apps, the push notifications uses the native mobile operating system abilities. No manual configuration is required. It allows the app to hibernate. There is no additional battery consumption due to that. Wakes up on incoming calls, chats can be disabled per profile. So the profile is then in regards of away, do not disturb, available, that kind of stuff where you can enable it or disable it. The flow is pretty simple. The call comes into 3CX. The 3CX realizes that for example, if it's in a call queue, your extension is a member of that call queue. It recognizes that on your extension, the push notification is enabled, and also that you have registered from a mobile app. So it sees that on the registration. So it literally sends the notification of the incoming call to the vendor push service of your mobile OS manufacturer. So it recognizes if you have iOS or if you have Android. Therefore, it sends it either to Google or it sends it to Apple. Then the vendor push service sends the information to the mobile device, and then the mobile device literally wakens up the app in order to bring the app to the front and have the call notified, or that there's a call coming in. Now, what can happen is that when you get in the same time or in time when you're on a call with the mobile app, that there a call comes in over your regular mobile number. So, for example, from Telstra, Optus, or wherever, that call will overstamp the current call on your 3CX app, because that is just by native requirements or handling on the phone and on the provider's end. The 3CX apps are always dual location provisioned, so it recognizes if you are on a local LAN, for example, if you're local to the PBX, if the PBX is on-prem, or if you are remote to the PBX, if the PBX is hosted, or if the PBX is on-prem and you are outside somewhere using the mobile network. Open the required NAT ports towards the 3.6 PBX. If that's for on-premise systems, we'll look at that then in the advanced training when we come to the installation of an on-prem system. The tunnel port TCP UDP by default 5090. This is where the whole call goes through. HTTPS port TCP by default it's either 443 or it's 5001. But again, that comes only into play when you use an on-prem system or you use the 3CX on a hosted environment that is not automatically configuring all the required ports for 3CX on hosting. Yeah. On 363 SMB and hosted, this is already taken care of. And when you deploy it with the when you deploy the system with Azure and so on, that also should be implemented automatically. It runs with 3G, 4G, 5G, and Wi-Fi. A full take on NAT and port forwarding in the course Configure the Firewall, which is a part of the advanced training. Okay, now let's demo. There's not really much to demo on that. You literally just require a mobile phone, you require the access to the web client, and then you require to open the QR code. This recording should be automatically added to the leader training portal. Yes, they all should be automatically getting there. So there is not really much to show you in that regard. Therefore, I have not added a demo on the mobile because it's so simple. And again, if you need something to specifically show you how it's done, shoot me an email and then I can get that sorted for you. IP phones. IP phones are also supported with free SMB and hosted. They are fully tested. They are supported. So again, comes down to the brands. We only use supported IP phones through the whole range of those deployments. Again, because they are fully tested and fully supported. There are templates in 3CX software, and they are supported if they use the current firmware. There is zero-touch provisioning available and also PNP provisioning. Now, phones can be in the same network as the 3CX. Phones can also be remote. A router phone must be the first phone defined if no dedicated SBC is on site. It requires the phone model and the MAC address. Now, router phone is a pretty great thing. And from the moment they were introduced until now, I think we have 20 different router phone versions available. It's really, really hard to say nowadays, oh yeah, I want to use a stun provision phone because we have 20 different phones available. There's not really that much of a need to have a stun phone anymore, especially when you do a whole new deployment. Regarding the router phone on site, when you have multiple devices on site, from my experience over the last couple of months, I moved to the philosophy that when you use router phones, use on-site as many router phones as possible. The reason is for the following. First of all, you have a limited amount of phones that you can lead via a router phone. So when you don't use a SBC, like for example, a Raspberry Pi or a NUC on site, you have on a Yearlink T5 series phone, you have a max amount of 10 additional phones that you can lead through a router phone. When you use a Yearlink T4U series, you have 4 additional phones that you can route through the router phone. Fred asked if you have a router phone, you don't need an SBC. That's correct. The router phone is in itself an SBC. Now, what I want to line out here with using router phones, I've come across multiple issues over the last years since router phones were introduced, that customers have a phone on site as a router phone. Let's say it's a doctor's practice. You have one router phone on a desk and 9 other phones that are connecting to the PBX via that router phone. All these phones, for example, are T5 series phones, and on a beautiful morning, the router phone ceased to live. So what does that mean? Since all the phones go via that specific device, and that device is down based on, let's say, there can be port failure on the switch, that can be the device dies, the network cable is not good anymore, or what else ever, all other phones stop working, the doctor's practice is down. So again, you remember at my initial introduction rant, have a plan B available. The plan B in a basic form would be if you have phones on site, like for example, if you have fully just T5 series from Yearlink on site, all of these phones can be router phones. So why you just deploy one router phone and create a bottleneck? Don't get me wrong, when you have a physical SBC on site, you have 50 phones that go through there, you create a bottleneck. But with the SBC, you have the capability on creating a failover. Again, linking to Alloy, to Alloy's YouTube channel, there is somewhere a lunch and learn session from me where I show you how to set up a high availability setup for 3CX and their SBCs. Have a look at that. You see how easy it is to set up a high availability mode. Now, with that on a physical SBC setup, the possibility there is given. You reduce yourself then again on a single router phone. When the phone is down, the whole site is down. So I have developed from using or advising a single SBC phone just to go, if you have 10 SBC, if you have 10 T5 phones on site, deploy them all as router phones. Have 10 router phones on site. It does not make a difference if you have one SBC phone or 10 or 20 or 30 on site. It also does not add any additional load to the PBX, because the difference between a router phone and a non-router phone is nothing. It is still a connection, a remote connection that lands on the 3CX. The only difference between a non-router phone and a router phone is that you use with a router phone, with an SBC phone, you use the tunnel. And that tunnel is the same tunnel that you use with the mobile client, that you use with the Windows soft phone. Yeah, there is no difference. There's absolutely no difference between that. So there is no higher load on the on an SBC phone than what you have from the soft client or from the mobile client or from a regular phone. It's just that the traffic from the SBC phone is encrypted while it is not encrypted on a normal phone. That's it. Yeah. So if you have a site that has, let's say, T4U, T5, or what else ever kind of phones on your end, use the possibility and deploy them all as router phones. The additional beauty of that one is, the absolute additional beauty of that one is, we come back into a COVID situation. Just as an example, the user can literally take that phone and walk home and plug it in and it works. While if you use a single router phone on site, the user has to have that phone. If it's not a router phone, if it's going via a router phone, he has to have it redeployed as a router phone or what else ever. Gives additional work to you guys. Why not just do it at the beginning and be done with it and be happy and have it set up there, work. You don't have to do any port forwarding or what else ever. Okay, if they use the SBC phone, you anyway don't have to do it. But again, we had issues when all of a sudden the firewall changed and the router phone had all of a sudden a different IP address. The phones were not connecting to the PBX anymore. Yeah? Because the router phone, they couldn't reach the router phone anymore. Because in their configuration, the router phone had a different IP, and then all of a sudden IT comes, changes whatever kind, the firewall, or they get a new service, ISP or what else ever, and half of the stuff breaks. If you have the possibility to deploy everything with router phones, do it. Just do it. The only downside that you have then there is that the audio traverses the PBX. That's the only downside. Yeah, the audio does not stay in the local LAN, so it traverses, even if it's a call between extensions, it traverses via the PBX. Gives you a little bit of additional bandwidth use that you have on the internet side. Yeah, but everything else gives you just benefits, more stable connection, the possibility to also have someone's, when a phone cracks down, or cleaning the desk, which is absolutely nice. And then by accident, they touch the phone and the network cable on the back of the phone, the pin was missing. You know that little pin that we have on the RJ45 jack that actually makes it stuck into the port. That pin is missing. The service personnel cleaning the desk is touching the phone. That connection becomes flaky or what else ever. In the next morning, that user is not on his desk, and all the phones are not connected. Yeah. Doctor's practice or what else ever, huge drama. Yeah. Use dedicated SBC phones if you can. Just do it. Brings you so much advantage further down the track. Yeah. Okay. Again, thank you for taking on my advices. I guess I've done that in many times that people have followed and generally never had a bad feedback. Yeah. 3.6 SBC establishes a secure connection between a network and a 3.6 server in the cloud, used to connect 3.6 supported IP phones, audio, RTP kept within the remote network. That's only if we use all the phones using like one SBC phone or what else ever. If we use the solution what I just proposed, we go via the 3CX. It's just how it is, because they then are all separate router phones. Phones connected to the same SBC, again, that's when you use either a dedicated hardware SBC or when you use a dedicated router phone. Again, for functionality, for quality use further down the track, I would say use all SBC phones if possible. Then you don't have these 2 dot points available, but you have a much more stable outcome in your deployment. No configuration firewall required at remote network. Multiple SBCs on one side for more phones. You can have 200 SBCs. There's no limitation in that regard, and it's completely free. Router phones have inbuilt SBC, dual functionality, up to 10 phones, depending on the model. No additional hardware is required. It reduces costs. SBC hardware specs for the SBC, we see that under that link there, can be configured in a high availability Linux Raspberry Pi mode. Other requirements: use the network interface card, not Wi-Fi, disable unused adapters. That's now for a hardware SBC. Again, now comes that slide which baffles a lot of people. What is RPS? We come from SBC automatically to RPS. Now, RPS is the remote provisioning service that every phone vendor offers. Now, if any one of you watched the Yearling, the YMCS training that I did last week and yesterday, you will understand what happens there, what RPS means. I'm going to try to literally give you a quick rundown. RPS is literally nothing else than that you direct the phone when it boots up to the RPS server from the phone manufacturer, from the vendor. That is something what these devices have by default built in. So when a phone is in factory defaulted condition, it boots up and it goes to the internet and it contacts the vendor push service or vendor provisioning service, sorry. I always say in that regard, they have the ET syndrome, they are dialing home. Yeah, I hope everyone of you guys knows who ET is. I actually have never watched the movie, never ever, even if I grew up in that time. But again, they have the ET syndrome. So they literally dial back home and say is there any provisioning information around for me? Now, what usually happens is that if you maintain the RPS server and control that, you literally have an RPS server for that customer set up with the provisioning URL, which is nothing else than the URL that can be found inside the 3CX. You prepare that all on the system. You add the devices on the YMCS with the device's MAC address and serial number for when the device comes up to you or to the Yearling or to Snom or to Fanville. They literally ask if there is any information there. Then based on the information we set up there on the phone, on the back end of RPS, RPS says, yes, go to that link and redirects the phone, and the phone literally then goes to the phone system and gets provisioned. So it downloads the configuration, sets up itself, and registers. Now, the big issue that we have with the SBC phones is that all the new phones that you receive are from Yearling, for example, are not SBC ready. The latest official firmware from Yearling is the 0.70, and to be SBC ready, we at least need the 3CX firmware version 0.74. So which means you have a phone that is completely new, that is has never been touched before, nothing. It is on the latest 3CX firmware. You have it set up as a router phone. 3CX also adds those phones automatically to their own RPS or to their RPS account on the vendor's backend. And when you then boot your phone, the phone is literally getting all the correct information, everything. It even gets provisioned, but it's just not registering because it's on a too old firmware. So which means you literally would have to have every phone hands-on, touch on first and update to the latest 3CX firmware. Now, there are two ways you can do it. You can create a YMCS account, have those phones registering on the YMCS, and then push the firmware through the YMCS automatically over to the device. Or you can ask us, and for little money, we update you the phones before they leave our warehouse. It's $5 per device, and we update them to the latest firmware. We even provision them for additional $5, and you literally drop ship the phones. You don't touch them. You sell that service. You sell that service to your customer. For example, you charge $15 for pre-provisioning and updating the firmware, and we charge you $10. So you make a win of $5 per device, and the customer receives the phone, plugs it in, and it's up and running. Yeah. Because what you also can have with this kind of setup, when you prepare the phone and everything, even if the firmware is on the latest version, the phone comes to the customer. Customer has either a Telstra internet or an Aussie broadband internet, and what they do, they have option 66 enabled on their DHCP server on their router, which means the phone boots up, gets the IP address and all other IP information, and along with that, it gets a provisioning information from Telstra or from Aussie Broadband, which means the phone will not go out to the RPS service from Yearlink to get the provisioning information, because it has already received provisioning information, which is wrong, yeah, but the routers, they push that out. Aussie Broadband and Telstra, they push that out. But if the phone is already provisioned, for example, if we do it in our warehouse, the phone is set up, the phone is plugged into the network, and you don't have to care anymore anything. The phone boots up and registers. Yeah. So from that perspective, we have multiple opportunities there in order to literally have those devices provisioned. It is absolutely working when that is done automatically when your customer plugs it in. However, there is that bottleneck that the customer might have a Telstra or a Aussie Broadband router on site that is actually pushing via option 66 their provisioning link to the phones, even if you did not ask for that, or the customer did not ask for that. Yeah. I also had customers that had they deployed a new phone system. On his end there, I think it was a Grandstream PBX which they deployed, so it was an on-site PBX, and all the Grandstream devices they were not able to reach the Grandstream PBX. Bad tongues would say that's nothing special, but yeah, it came down to that there was a TFTP server running on site for the old phone system that they had, which had option 66 enabled as well. And so literally all the phones that were inside that network sending out PNP requests got overstamped by this server and were not able to literally reach to the actual phone system. And I said, look, there has to be something like that somewhere inside their environment and all that stuff. And he went then out on and searched, and yeah, they found then in the end that there was an active server which had as an additional setup option 66 when literally new PNP requests came in. That is also possible that this is around in the network. So also when that is available, if we do the pre-config, we do that generally for Yearlink phones only at the moment, but if we do the pre-config, you can overcome such issues, which can cause you quite a lot of trouble, because you have to maybe remote into the customer's backend, then you have to get rid of that stuff. On an OC broadband router, it's pretty simple. You go into the router, go into the DHCP option, into the DHCP section on the LAN side, and then you literally disable that thing. On a Telstra, it's a little bit more of a pain because you have to have super user rights. Darren asks, is the best course of action to change DHCP so option 66 is disabled, or simply replace the router? Generally, the thing would be that you have to check on site what they actually use prior to sell something or to establish something. The thing what also is an opportunity on the Yearlink phones is to disable option 66 on the phone manually. However, it is not guaranteed that since we triggered the phone, so the phone is not in fully factory defaulted condition then anymore, that it actually will go out and ask for the provisioning information on Yearlink's end. Yeah, so that's then a little bit of a fluffy status. The best way is to actually check with the customer what internet service they are using. When it's a customer, bigger customer, so when it's a single customer, a small small customer, check what internet service they are using. When they say Telstra or OC broadband, you have to have these alerts in your back going on and say, okay, we have to check if that stuff is there enabled. OC broadband, again, you go into the router with the credentials that the customer actually received originally from OC broadband, go into the LAN DHCP settings, and there you can disable option 66, and that does the trick. With Telstra, you need to have super user rights for the Telstra router, and then with that, you can also turn it off. It's just these kind of things. It's always a part of your responsibility in terms because you're also interested that the whole transition is smooth. It's going smooth. So the more upfront work you do, the easier it is further down the track for you to actually have a system properly deployed. When it's a bigger customer, you probably dump in a phone once into their network, check if that phone receives any kind of provisioning information. Yeah, you can take a spare phone that you have sitting around somewhere. Doesn't have to be on the latest firmware. Doesn't have to be a new model. Just factory defaulted. Dump it into the network, and then literally see if that phone receives any provisioning information. You let it sit there. You after a while you go onto the web interface. You see if it has still the admin login. If it has changed, you know that there is something around where they try to set up a different extension or a different password on your end. Or you can log in, then you go into the settings, auto provision settings, and then you see if there is an auto provision link set in there. You know that there is somewhere an auto provisioning server around. Generally, it also will tell you who is the ISP, so if it's Telstra, if it's OC broadband. So this gives you an answer there. If it's a local IP address, it maybe gives you the local IP address of the provisioning server that they had for the old system. So it maybe gives you there already a hint to which device is actually doing the provisioning. So that's literally, it's a lot of information that you can already get beforehand without you running into the offsite then afterwards and have a grumpy customer because the phones are not just working straight away and you have to run around on the day X. Yeah. So in that regard, let's demo that kind of stuff. I actually also made a recording for the Windows client, which I have not showed before. The Windows client, I just made that recording so that you actually can see what we are going to face now with the new Windows client. So we literally go there, we choose Windows app in the back end of the web client. We go to the Microsoft store. And then we literally download the new Windows software. I did speed that up a little bit. Thank you, Darren. It's always my approach to do these webinars with real life hints and tips, because I know what you guys are facing out there. I have seen that stuff long enough, and you also have to see it is always the best troubleshooting step to actually have the people out there knowing what they do, knowing what they have to look at, because we have so much stuff to support and all that. So bear with me. So you see now it installed. You then literally click on that provisioning link and the device gets provisioned. Again here, make availability for public networks as well, because that is a device that you, or as a tool that you might have installed on your notebook and your notebook when you travel. So you want also that this thing can access public networks. Yeah. So you see, we have there the panel again. We can change the from light to dark, and we can change the language. We can show also unregistered extensions, all that kind of stuff. Replace plus with 00. Whatever we can have for the BLF panel initials or full name. You can integrate the headset. We have hotkeys again that are integrated. It's really cool to see that this device, or that this software is really getting there where it used to be. Here again, when you go into the chat, you come into the web client chat, but that will change again in future updates. Again, going back to that hands-on stuff, for me, it's very important that you know your what you do, what the product can, what the risks are, and all that stuff, because it helps us as well. We get less requests to troubleshoot, and we can focus on the really demanding or tricky issues. Yeah, so it's a win-win for everyone in that regard. So it is a little bit selfish if I say I give you all these hints and tricks and advices, but you also shine better towards your customer. Yeah, because when you know the stuff, your customer thinks, hey, that man is a gun. Yeah, and you will see you build up long-lasting relationship and relationships based on trust with your customer, where your customer then in the end is literally coming back and back and back and back to you, asking for advice. And when it's about installing something new, your customer is not going to ask who it does. Yeah. So because he trusts you. And again, I said in the very beginning, telecommunication is still so crucial nowadays. It's live, it's real-time conversation. Yeah. And again, it gives the customer still the privacy. Yeah, he can dig in his nose when he's on a phone call. When he's in a video call, he can't do it. Yeah, and it's you can feel the emotions on either side. So it's also then there. It's still above chat where you have those emoticons, or emails again with emoticons. Telecommunication will stay the top of the line communication form for still many, many, many years to come. And therefore, it is so crucial that you actually know what you do, because it is you out there who have to deal with the end users, and it's you out there who have to have that security in the things that you are doing. Yeah, so that's literally it. So now let's demo the hands-on with a desk phone. So you see down there, we are having a T57 that we look at the screen that has been factory defaulted. We add a new user. We name it here now example 3CX example. We give it an email address. You have to have an email address. You can't run without an email address anymore on 3CX. Jason, it is the T4U series and the T53, T54 and T57 from Yearlink that support SBC. So you see I have now there already the relevant firmware. That's the latest firmware that I downloaded from 3CX. I go to upgrade. I quickly say, I always say reset to factory. To me, this is a standard movement in terms of being 100% sure that the device is factory defaulted when it comes up. Darren, you just come to help at breezeconnect.com.au, and then yeah, we will see what, if the license key is through us, we definitely will be there to support you. Also, for example, if you purchase all the phones through us, we can't say to people who purchase hardware through us and all that stuff, yeah, no, we don't support you just because one part was not purchased through us. However, in a perfect world, we would love if everything is purchased through us, because we also offer free support. We live literally from those sales. So from that perspective, it is a give and take in that regard. Yeah. So that is absolutely normal. So now you saw the phone is literally rebooting. We see the config updating screen. Once that is done, we see then that the backend, the wallpaper of the phone changes. It's actually restarting already. Usually under normal circumstances, you quickly see that the wallpaper changed from the traditional bluish greenish one to the 3CX wallpaper, but this one is now just running through. At some point, you will then also see that the phone becomes green on the back end of the 3CX. This can also be done, yes. It all comes down. So Jason asked, can the process you just showed with factory reset option be used to reprovision a previously connected phone to a new user? This can also be done. Important in that regard is that you, before you do the factory default, literally remove the phone on the old user and add it to the new user. You see now the phone is up and is green, and on the phone itself, you also have the 3CX wallpaper already now. Now we quickly call from the web client there the phone, and you will see that the phone is already registered and able to receive calls. And of course, I could call back and it would ring then on the web client. So that was it, literally, with the first day of the 3CX basic training. That was chapter 1 and 2. Please let me know if you have any further questions.